Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Brian, and in this video I'm going to go over some of the work that I had to do to get this big boy back on the tracks. Let's check it out. Alright, so the last time we saw this train in a video, well, it wasn't running. So since then, I've posted some shorts and some pictures in the community pages and things like that. Just you know, the work I've been doing on it. It's just really tough to document all the work that I had to do on this to get it where it is now. You know, I kind of just put some bits and pieces out here as I had time to work on it. There was a lot of fabrication involved as well. So it was just something I really couldn't have the camera going on. And there was probably a lot of head scratching and you know, words being thrown at this thing at the time. But overall, it all worked out. So let's just get into the details of some of the things that I did here. First of all the electronics are under the boiler. I had that in one of my posts as well. We're going to take the shell off too, and I'm going to go through this and show you guys what's in there. It's not pretty right now, but you know, I don't want to spend too much time dressing all the wires in and really straightening everything up, because the whole thing's got to get stripped down again to get painted. Again, I didn't want to spend too much time doing that. Just wanted to get it running and check everything out, make sure mechanically it runs and electrically. So overall, I think everything's good, and you know, we're almost ready for paint now. Maybe a few little things here and there to clean up, but overall, just wait for the weather to break around here so I can get some paint work done outside. So let's get into some of the details now of what I did. Up front, we'll start here. You can't see it there, but we changed out the incandescent bulb to an LED headlight up front, and the classification lights up here, these were LEDs. I don't know if, like I said, I don't think this thing was ever run. The rollers were spotless, and you know, it looked like it was a sample, an MTH sample. So some of the pieces were installed, like these lights were installed, but the LEDs, I think they were maybe a different voltage. They were, I guess, for a PS1, so it was probably running off like a 5-volt regulator or something. I think these PS3 boards operate off like a 3 volts or something like that. But either way, they wouldn't work with the system in there, so I swapped them out and put the newer LEDs in there. We got the whistle steam installed, and I think you guys saw me cut all that out as well. I'm not going to pull that off. There's some details I have in my community posts on that. And so we got that installed. The main smoke units installed. Again, these guys are all operating. We got the boards mounted, so inside the shell here in the boiler, there is the whistle steam smoke board, which is mounted right around in here. I did have to remove the blow-off valves because the board is right underneath of this area. So when I go to reinstall those, I'm going to have to cut down the piece of brass that protrudes downward and probably just epoxy them or glue them in. There's a pretty tight friction fit in there anyway, so I'm not too worried about them coming out. Especially once this gets painted, there'll be a little bit of paint built up in there. Those things will fit in there nicely and stay in place. So we got the whistle steam board here, and we got the main boiler board in here. Now what I did with this is I did not do a PS3 upgrade kit. I put in what would have been shipped from the factory in a factory steam locomotive. So it's broken up. There's a tender board in the back, and there's a boiler board in the front. Now the boiler board controls all of the classification lights, headlights, the smoke units, and all of that stuff. Cab light, firebox flicker, basically everything up in the boiler. That's why it's named that. And it gets a serial data signal that is generated by the tender board, which again, we'll open all this up and go through it. I do have pictures of all of this in process before it got installed, but still, we'll go through, we'll open these guys up, check them out. But there's a serial data line that comes through the tether on the back, which is basically the communication line from the tender board up to the boiler board. And again, that has commands and controls for all the functions up in the boiler. All right, so moving up to the cab. Again, this is a PS1 shell, and it did not have the windows cut out for the cab in there. And that's something that the Lionels do have cut out. I don't know if the PS2 or PS3 big boys have those cut out. They may, but either way, I wanted to cut those out. So as you can see, this guy goes in there. But I had to drill these out with my pin vise and then hand file these out. And it's not perfect, but it's, you know, you can see the lights and stuff in here, you know, when it's coming down the track. And I just thought that was kind of cool. It was a nice little added feature. Again, to kind of make it look like the Lionel. So what I plan to do with this cab is MTH has the cab number for this one. This one is a 4018, and that's what's up on the front of the boiler there. I'm going to get the cab for that with the 4018 on it. This will be black, and again, you know, we're going to go with that Rio Grande Heritage paint scheme. Again, not copying what's already out there, inspired by it, and this is not going to look the same as that. Again, I'm still not entirely sure how I'm going to do all of this. I do have some waterslide graphics for this, so the pinstripes may be in waterslide in black up here. I may actually paint them, mask them off and paint them. I don't know yet. So it's going to be a little bit tricky with the castings in here in the boiler, but we'll see how it turns out. So again, the cab will be black. You know, the rest of it, I'm going to fake it till I make it, I guess. We'll see how it works out. It's probably going to take a couple different tries, but whatever. It's a project, right? So we'll see where it goes. The tender, again, that's going to have the similar Heritage paint scheme on there as well, with the black mountain and the yellow and the gray. I forget exactly the name of the color on that. Matt from Uncle Salty, he's gonna straighten me out on what the color name is for the gray. Again, I forget. But anyway, you get the idea with that. Up on the tender here, now, since we have the cold load, I think I might actually do these pieces up here like a simulated wood. So I might do these like a brown to kind of accent it, because I think this is going to be gray in here, and then the mountains will be in this area. Again, I'll play around with it. I'll probably mask this off a couple times and see what I kind of like and what works, what doesn't work. But you know, we'll see how it turns out. One of the other things that I did to this, which was a pain in the bleep, was I installed LEDs in here for ash pan glow, and we'll fire this up and get a closer look at these. Again, I have some posts on these. I don't know if you saw them or not, but we'll get a closer look up in here so you can really get a good idea what it looks like installed, and you know, at the track level what it looks like. Again, if you've seen those pictures, the cuts are not pretty. I'm not proud of those cuts, but it was extremely tough to get a Dremel in there, and it had to be cut on an angle so that I could get a screwdriver in there to screw in the LED bracket. So it had to be kind of like on an angle like this. Otherwise, there was just no way to get a screwdriver in there, even like a small Chapman set or anything. I just couldn't get a 90 in there with those tiny little screws. I don't have anything small enough for those. And like a Chapman for a 90-degree angle or anything like that. So anyway, I had filed the boiler down on an angle to get the screws on an angle, and then have the brackets bent so that the LEDs fit in here properly. And then I also had to hog out the frame a little bit for clearance for the connectors on the LED boards. But it's a really cool effect. Again, it's another Lionel thing. I think this one is probably the only MTH in existence with ash pan glow. So, you know, that's kind of cool. Maybe we'll see that as a feature in the future on MTHs. I don't know. But anyway. All right, so that brings us to the back of the tender here. So again, in some of the community posts, I think it was in the community post, that I put some pictures of installing these rear classification lights, or lanterns, whatever you want to call them, whatever they're really called. I don't know, leave it in the comments. I think they're class lights or markers. Either way, we got these installed, and these actually run off the same marker light function on the handheld remote, that, you know, when you toggle the front ones on and off, you know, these go on and off with it. It's all the same circuit, so that way you can turn on and off all your classification lights. They don't change colors like the Lionels, which is fine. I just put the red LEDs in here with the clear lenses. These are Lionel lantern part numbers, and they worked out really well. So if any of you guys are looking to install these on the back ears, it's not too bad to do. If you have a pin vise, that's how I would highly recommend drilling out the holes for these on the Lionel parts page. Just different variations of these class lights. If you want something a little bit different, they might have different mounting configurations too. They usually have the screws kind of with them. Like, you have to look in the diagrams, but again, these are tiny little screws. I would highly recommend getting the screws that go with the lanterns, and, you know, whichever one you choose to use. But they work out well. You know, I had to drill another hole here for the wires to go through, and they're all heat shrinked, and, you know, that's cleaned up and deburred in there, so that way we're not going to chafe the wires and, you know, short out to the tender, because that's metal. So, and then up here now we have the warning light, and I had to figure out what the pinout was for this on the tender board, and so we got that wired in, and we got a control for that too, and that actually operates off of the beacon option on the handheld. So, obviously this is a steam engine, it doesn't have a beacon, but I guess just the way that the sound files were coded up, they just call it a beacon. Anyway, it works. You can toggle that on and off. I don't see any reason to turn it off. It looks pretty cool on with all these lights, and then we got the reverse light here that comes on, obviously, when you go into reverse. Rear proto coupler, again, this all functions. This particular tender has little hatches on here. Let's see if I can get that up there with my shaky hands. They all open up. And one of these is for volume if you're running in conventional PS1 mode. And the other one's for smoke, so you can, they're just potentiometers in there. You can adjust them for smoke volume and sound volume. The middle one's just empty. There's nothing in there. But it's pretty cool if the hatches open up. The toolbox opens up as well. That's kind of cool. I don't think I have any tools small enough to fit in there, but whatever. That's really cool. So that's really it. We'll crack this open, and I'll show you guys in detail what's going on inside of it. Okay, so there is one more thing I forgot about, which I wanted to mention. I used the 10-pin standard tether that's found on most PS2s and some PS3 models as well. Now, a lot of the newer versions of the steam engines, they have what's called wireless tender, which is a connection. Basically, this right here, the drawbar, is a circuit board on the wireless tender things. And they're not truly wireless like a Lionel is. They have, it's a circuit board with traces inside of it. And that makes the connection between the tender and the boiler. So I did want to try to use that, and I thought about it. I mean, I'm okay with this. This works. The main reason I wanted to is because if this is going to be painted a really light color, that's rubber. I'm not painting this rubber. It's just going to crack and flake off. So you're going to see the tether on there. Again, I'm all right with that. It's a project. I'll live with it. But I was going to try to do the wireless drawbar, the wireless tether, and that would require cutting out the frame of this rear drive block. I don't know if I really want to get into that. I mean, this thing's working. It's a lot of metal I would have to cut out in order to get that to work. I don't know if I really want a chance doing that, coming this far. So I think I'm just going to stick with the wired tether, and we should be okay. All right, so if you've been following the build up to this point, watching some of the shorts that I've done as I'm putting this thing together and testing things out, and some of the community posts, probably seen it like this in the pictures quite a few times now. Just wanted to go over what's inside of it and kind of show you. Again, it's not pretty, but the whole thing's going to get stripped down again anyway to get painted. So up front here, we have, it's hard to see, but there's the main smoke unit up in here. Then we have the whistle steam smoke unit, which is a smaller one. We have the whistle steam smoke board, control board. We have the boiler board. Back here, I had to improvise a little bit and make a bracket with a lot of hot glue, but that is the firebox flicker LED right in there. And the cab light LED is jammed all the way down in there. It's hard to see, but it's there. And then we have the connections for the ash pan glow off of the side here. Now these are just powered right off, DC powered off of the motor. We've got the tachometer right here, and some of the drive line. I'll kind of go through that real quick. All right, obviously we have the motor here. We've got the flywheel. We've got a dog bone in here. We've got all the drive gear going through the rear drive block gearbox, and then the forward drive block gearbox. Now back on the tender, we have the tender board, and then we have the speaker in here, and a little bit of a mess of wiring in here, but that's all the LEDs, all the wiring rather for the LEDs for the rear warning light, classification light, and the reverse light. And then in here we have the potentiometers for audio volume and smoke volume as well. So this tender shell was actually for a newer PS3 version that has the wireless drawbar. So I had to hog out an area in here for the wire to go through. And that's how the older PS1s were. They were a lot prettier than this, but again, I'll clean this up a little bit. This is all smoothed out as well, so that it doesn't get, the wires don't get chafed in there and short out. So that about wraps it up for everything under the hood here. Let's see if we get this back together, get on the tracks, and take it for a spin. All right, guys, that about wraps it up for now. Next step's going to be paint for this guy, and I'll do some cleanup on the shell before I paint it, before I start laying down any color, any primer, or anything like that. But thank you for following along with the build, and hopefully we see this thing in paint soon. Until then, thumbs up.